I hope you're all well. This is the first video that I'm putting out in 2021, and it's just going to be like a little recap basically of the things that I experienced in 2020 from April when I put out my last video, um, because things have progressed significantly as far as the move into higher consciousness through this twin flame um, journey, this twin flame route. So I just wanted to speak about that for a little bit, not make it too long, hopefully. And then I'll have to put out another video as well, which will be about one major healing event I went through in 2020, which is going to take a while to explain. So I made notes as well, so I can just kind of whiz through, because I'm not going to go into too much detail. I just wanted to get it back up to where I left off, basically. So after I stopped doing videos in April, the main thing that happened from April till July was just about vibration. So basically, it felt like I was constantly dropping down into lower vibration to bring my twin back up into higher vibration. I went through some weird kind of energies inside of myself. So there was one kind of a persistent thing that was going on, which was like paranoid delusions. So I'd be out in the garden thinking people were talking about me and stuff like that, and worrying about things like that. And I came into awareness of it, so there's a lot of clearing of that until that just eventually went away, and there was no more of that. I had to stop doing readings for people because I couldn't handle the pain, their emotional pain that I was experiencing. So it just kind of built to a crescendo with that, actually, and I had to just shut myself off. That was why I didn't do any more videos or anything, because I did do a few little readings for people, but mainly for people that have come to me several times already. So with that, it's kind of easier. But for new people, people that are an unknown quantity, I just couldn't do it. And I had to tell people, even people that I read for before, that I literally cannot read your reply to my reading that I'm sending you, because the replies are often just full of emotion, and I couldn't take it. So that was one thing that came in, that I had to kind of pull myself away from other people's emotion for a while. They talked to me, my guides had talked to me for a long time about two men coming in at one time. And what was really interesting and curious about that, and quite funny as well, is that one came in. His name began with a D, which is what they said as well, and they were calling it D-Day when he came in. And what's really funny is that I know someone from a long time ago, and her name is D-Day. It wasn't always D-Day; it was something else, and then she got married. So it's kind of like, when I saw her name change on Facebook, this is years ago when I was on Facebook, that was a sign, so that was just really weird. And then I had a major incident with a narcissist, which was really, really amazing, because not because of what happened, because what happened was I had the interaction, which was very, very public, and I took it out. And I called it a narcissist, and I pointed out its narcissism throughout this interaction that went on for quite a long time, and then I kind of came through that experience, and which at one time would have caused me so much fear, and it didn't. I was really, really strong, and I was just really like, this is what you are, that's what you're doing, and then after that, my guide said to me, because I got a bit scared, because this is like where I live, it's around where I live, and I got a bit scared of this person being so close to me, and my guide said, you're protected. I heard that quite clearly, so that was quite interesting. So I kind of was like, oh, all right then, that's great. I don't have to worry. Obviously, it's all about not worrying. And then there was this other incident about that same narcissist, where they kind of tried to come at me in person, and they were deflected. Somebody else came in and steered them away in a different direction, and also basically told them that who they were looking for was not me. And that was like after I'd been told I was protected, and it was like, wow, they were, they were kind of, they weren't even allowed to come close to me. So that was interesting. So that was one big thing. And what happened around that as well was I noticed, you can get triggered by things and get very angry and very upset. What they had done was trigger me, and it was about the birds that I love and the trees I love. And even though I knew at the time I was getting triggered that nothing was wrong because everything is what it's meant to be, and also I could see myself getting triggered, kind of thing, and I knew I was getting triggered. So I knew the whole thing I'd brought to myself for basically to come out of it that end and become really strong through it. And since then, I have not encountered one narcissist, not one. That's it. I think that's over with those now. So that was interesting. I've had various celebrations throughout the year. These are just like, they just come in out of the blue. It's been like, oh, today is like your birthday, or today is Christmas, and you've got to like drink wine and have fun and play the PlayStation and that kind of stuff. So that's kind of another thing that's happened. And that's all connected, of course, to bringing him up, my twin, up into higher vibration as celebration days. So that was just something interesting that I noticed. Of course, the drinking wine, there's been quite a lot of that going on because that helps to reduce resistance. And there's nothing wrong with that in terms of when you're guided to do it to release resistance. That's what they tell me. Also, there was a lot of eating nice foods earlier in the year, but then something came along that's like a big healing event for me. So that all changed overnight, and I'll put out a video about that because that's amazing stuff that they brought through. What else? I felt various timelines collapsing, all that kind of stuff. Mandela effect whilst I've been doing things. I was really guided to make a quilt in June, and I was just obsessed with making this quilt, like an old, like the ones they used to make on the wagon trails in America, and making one of those quilts. And as I was finishing that quilt, I had a huge Mandela effect and just felt like everything collapsing down into like all these different experiences, lifetimes I'd had, collapsing down into like bringing it all down onto the head of a pin. And there I was stood in my front room, and I was just like reeling around, like wow, like dizzy and actually moving around because it was so like intense. I've had a couple of those experiences with the Mandela timelines collapsing. What else? I'm writing it all down so I don't forget. Now, shall I move on? Right, so what was really interesting, right, was as soon as because June I made a quilt and I was just obsessed with making this quilt. As soon as I finished the quilt, this whole thing came in about healing, and I'm going to just put a different video out to talk about that because it's going to be, to explain it, it'll go on forever. So that'll be the next video. And that healing lasted until December, actually, the end of December. Let's say that'll be in another video. On top of that Mandela effect, other things, I've heard a lot of his thoughts, I've heard a lot of his words, he's said sentences to me, it's got clearer and clearer and clearer. I'm sure you all have that anyway, that kind of thing. I literally have seen, it's almost like some of the stuff he's spoken to me. They talk about the veil and that you just can't see on the other side what's there. And it's literally like that. I know he's right there, even though he's not in the room with me. That's how clear it's been, hearing his words to me, accurately representing to me what I need to hear at that time. So that's really got even more kind of clear. And that, interestingly, right, because this is about his thoughts and his words, I've heard thoughts as well. I've heard him like tell me where he is, this kind of stuff again. And where am I going with this? With that, because it's all around the mind, what they've brought me into understanding in December, like really, I mean, it was always there, the understanding. It was kind of things come in and then you understand them a little bit, right, and then they go away again. and you kind of maybe you're working on something else, and then they'll come back in and you're made to understand it a bit more. So it's been like that, like the waves of understanding coming in around the mind. And in fact, just today when I was making these notes for this video, because I wanted to just get it all said and to get it up to date, they started to explain this to me even more about the mind, because what happens is the twin flame experience, or the divine plan, the divine path, it's a path to higher consciousness, and it's through experiencing oneness, and it's through experiencing that by being connected to one significant other. I mean, you can be connected to like lots of people and do this, because we're all connected. When we go back to vibration, when we cease to exist as a human, we go back to oneness. So consciousness, which is oneness, which is energy, which is vibration, all the same thing. We are all one, so we're not individuals, right? So as that consciousness comes through into the human experience, it can basically do whatever it wants. So you could have consciousness come through into the human experience and separate and remain connected in 2 different people. You could have it remain connected in 3 different people. You could have it remain connected in 4 different people. And in fact, the evolution of consciousness is to remain connected in all people. And that's how we'll be returned to the Lemurian state, where we were all empathic, and there was no harm done because we remain connected. So as consciousness comes through into the human experience, the actual evolution of humankind is that it's going to come in and remain connected in more and more and more people, so that you feel each other's feelings, and you're able to read each other's thoughts, know each other's thoughts, just basically be connected through the mind and connected through the heart. So that's the twin flame experience, and it's like as far as I know, consciousness connected in this way only through the one person. I haven't experienced it connected in this way through any more people, not in a living way. I mean, I know I've got people that exist right now that I'm connected to for reasons of healing, and we'll come together and maybe there'll be some kind of interaction in the human state that facilitates that. I had one of those go on. Somebody had to come back for that. But as far as being connected consistently through every single faculty of the human state, no, I've only got one person that I'm connected to like that, that's constantly there, like I say, constantly aware of thoughts and feelings. And even if not aware in that moment of time, that's only just because it's just gone quiet, not because it's stopped. So this route to higher consciousness, how they explain it when I'm making these notes today, is if you can visualize the human body and the chakra system, the traditional chakra system is all you need to visualize. You don't need to get all like elaborate with it. You could do if you want, if that's up to you. But as far as I'm explaining it, there's no need to do that, because it's only to explain in the way of like the energy points and how it's moving it through. Because if you think about energy pushing through, is exactly what it is. So, and I said this I think I said it to a couple of people in videos lately, is how if you visualize, because it's good to visualize, it helps you see how things work. As your vibration comes into human form, you could see it as a ball of light hurtling through space. That's your ball of light, your vibration, consciousness, right? You come from the bigger ball of light, which is the oneness of consciousness. So you appear to separate off and come into a human experience as you hurtle through, and you could relate it to the planets as well, because that's how astrology works. You're going to hit like the moon, and that's the emotions, and you're going to pick up your emotional body, like you're putting on a suit of emotions, right? That's your emotional body. From there, you're traveling through, and you're picking up your mental body. So that's your mind, that's your thinking, it's your ego, how you relate to the world that you're going to be in. That's like putting on another suit of thought, and then you come into your physical body. So you've got the 4 points of reference: vibration, emotion, mentality, and physicality. And that's you. And then you're arriving on the earth in your physical body, and you are here, and you are form. And So you bring those things in as you come in, right? You could say Mercury is the mental body, you know, just say what you want actually in terms of that, because there's even more planets, isn't there? But you could look around and you could make those, you could then ascribe the meaning to those planets, and in fact that's what people do. So that's how they make up astrology, not make it up, but that's how they work astrology. So the twin flame experience, it would be one ball of light separating from the consciousness of oneness, and then as it comes forward into human form, it would split into the two emotions, the two mentality, the two physical body, but it would remain oneness within those two. Whereas if it's an individual experience, you just get one ball of light coming through into one stream of consciousness down into one physical body. So just to say, you know, when people say, oh, twin flames can't exist, it's not possible, what they're actually doing is they're viewing it from a human lens, and they're thinking that when you leave your human body, you still remain an individual person. They view souls as individual. There's no individual souls. Souls are all one. It's oneness. Consciousness is oneness. So anything is possible from consciousness. Anything at all. Consciousness can manifest into anything at once. So that's how it's possible. It's, you know, it's actually more rational and logical, if you want to look at it that way, to see that it as possible than to see it as not possible. Because if you're seeing it as not possible, you're viewing from a very lower lens, and you're not understanding that consciousness is able to do anything at once, right? Anyway, I digress. So with the twin flames, or the divine partners, or whatever you want to call them, that are working on this evolution of consciousness, and you can correspond how you arrive in your human body, and then you're going to start it from the base chakra, right? So you've got your base chakra, and traditionally this is related to the past events, past lives. So it is beyond what you consciously know, right? So it's like the ground level. So it isn't really so far away from the mind and the logic and the thinking experience of your human life that you're existing in right now, so far away from the egoic experience, right? Like I say, past, karma as in like who you're tied to for like healing purposes, who you've been in the past, things you've gone through in the past lives. So it's not visible from the egoic lens, right? So you've got that, the lower chakra. You've then got your sexual chakra. This is like really strong energy of instinct, relates to fire as well. So it's kind of, it's the animal instinct, if you like. It's not the egoic experience. It's not a thinking faculty. It's not even a heart-based faculty. It's instinct driven. Okay, so you kind of, this is the lowest experience you can have as a incarnated mammal. Should I say mammal? Incarnated living being, whether human or animal, that's a instinct basically. And then you move up to like the solar plexus. So that would be vibration. Let's just say that's vibration because it's beyond egoic understanding. It's beyond the mind, or before the mind. You then move up into the solar plexus, which is related a lot to fear. So when you feel fear, you'll feel it through there. You feel it in like your gut, right? But it's also related to instinct. So you can feel instinct through there. So it's kind of it's connected to the lower and it's connecting you up to the higher. So as you move through the chakras, you don't just end one, you move through and it stays connected, right? So you move from instinct into like a more emotional, and also willpower exists in the solar plexus. So and willpower is related to the ego. So you're kind of starting to come into the human experience, right? And then, of course, you move from the solar plexus, you move into the heart, and that's really where the emotions reside even more fully than they do in the solar plexus. Because the solar plexus, you're going to feel fear. In the heart, you start to feel every single emotion that there is, right? And it's really like to be in the heart energy is to be totally in the emotions. So, like we say, as you're coming through the cosmos, whatever you want to call it, into human experience, and you go in vibration, and then you go in emotions, you go in base chakra, you go in solar plexus chakra, sexual chakra, go in heart chakra. See? So it's all the same thing. And then, of course, from the heart, you're moving up into the throat chakra, which is verbalization. There's also fear can be felt in the throat because you fear of, I mean, for example, a really easy one, fear of public speaking, where your throat closes up. So it's related to your mind controls your verbosity, your ability to speak, right? What you're going to say. Your heart and your solar plexus control how you feel about what you're going to say. So again, the throat is like a continuation of the emotions, but it's also moving into the mind. So it's just like you're coming through your vibration, your heart, your mind, and then your physical body, right? And it all resides in the physical body, as do the chakra points that harmonize with your actual evolution. So your evolution of human is the same as your evolution of self. Your evolution of human is coming into the human being. Your evolution of self is the energy moving through the human being. And eventually, of course, you're coming up into the head, where resides the third eye, the crown chakra, related to clairvoyance, clairaudience, claircognizance, those kinds of clairs, that kind of wiser understanding and ability to tap into consciousness again. So it's like that journey of self brings you through what is lower, what is only instinct, what is only fear-based, what is emotional, what is connected to the mind, and then again connected to higher consciousness. So I'm explaining this right. So it's like as you move through the journey of the evolution of the human, you're moving through the journey of the evolution of mankind, and you're coming into higher consciousness. Either way, you're coming into higher consciousness. How it's related to twins. So when you start this journey and you're initiated, and the initiation is when you find out that you're connected to somebody in this way. And however you find that out, it doesn't really matter, because you might find it out because you feel that intense pull towards this person. Now, with me, it was an intense sexual pull that I felt. It was something instinct driven. It wasn't something that was I could not get my head around, right? I mean, I couldn't get my head around it because it was literally just instinct driven. It was a sexual pull towards this person, and that's how I guess I was initiated, because once it locked on in the physical, I had to see him in the physical, meet him in the physical for it to lock on, because then you get all that eye gazing and stuff as well they talk about that helps it lock on, because again it's mind, whatever. That's when it was initiated for me. But I guess you could have your own ways of initiating. I don't really know. You might know if you had a different way of initiating, but for me it was that. So, and of course then that you move through these lower energies with this connection. You move through like trying to understand this sexual pull. You're trying to understand your fear, because there's a lot of fear there as well in it, which is solar plexus, of course. And then there's the things you can't see, which are the energies of the base chakra, which is like anything to do with past lives or commitment, basically. There's a lot of commitment in that base chakra. So this whole journey is a journey of commitment. You might not realise you're committed when you start it and you begin it, when you're initiated, but you are committed because you're committed from even lower down in the karmic cycles and the reason for incarnating in the first place. And if you are incarnating for this reason, you're being asked to incarnate for the reason of human evolution, basically. Evolution into higher consciousness. So that is your commitment. But you have to start down the bottom with that. And you have to start and then move up through the chakras. So you move through that sexual pull. You move through fear. You know that. We've talked about that. You move through the emotions. Of course, there's a lot of spiraling back and forth. This is like when I talk about me having to go back down in vibration to pull him back up. This is like spiraling back. You could say spiraling back down into a lower chakra to clear something out and bring him back up. This is what that is. Whether it's clearing out fear or clearing out some other emotion from the heart, or even maybe clearing out some of that sexual initiation energy, or even something from before something from past lives, something that you're committed to clearing. I've talked before, you have a lot of clearing to do in the family, maybe with the narcissists and, that kind of stuff. The narcissistic spectrum, because it is the clearing of dark energy to light, so you will be clearing through the narcissistic spectrum. And if you just visualize that card, the Ten of Wands, and all those bundles of wands that are bundles of work that needs to be done in terms of clearing out what is not necessary for human, what needs to be left behind, because you can't take it with you into evolution, right? So that's how you're connected, right? And you work through and you work up. So you're working towards higher consciousness. And then, of course, the last part, because it's equivalent to arriving into a human body, which is the mind and the physical body, is what goes on in the head, what goes on in the brain, and how you're connected through the brain. And eventually that will lead you both into a state of higher consciousness. So that's kind of how they're showing me it works, in a way that you can visualize it and see how it is a journey, right? Not a journey from A to B in a physical way, but an energetic journey into higher consciousness, right? So that can be understood. And also, it's like the third eye and the crown chakra, which are to do with the clairs, the mind clairs, the seeing, that's all that's about as well. So it's like, along with, like, so this, I mean, it's quite simple when you can just when you just like take it as it is. So consciousness, when it exists outside of a human experience, everything is oneness. So that's why when you go to a psychic, they can tell you what somebody else is thinking or feeling, or they can tell you what might happen in the future, because everybody knows everything is everything, right? Consciousness is all one. So you can tap into one other person, you can tap into anybody, in fact. So, and when you're tapping into consciousness knows everything. Consciousness that exists beyond the physical realm, that is, right? And not the consciousness in the human at the time, that is an ego, but that's a different story. So, where was I? Where was I? So it's like, as you're connected through there, right, the two of you are connected through there, anything that comes from the brain that you're hearing that you know is from them, obviously you can get that, the telepathy and the just knowing, you're basically, the thinking modality, right, is the same. So it's not that you're going to have the same thoughts exactly, although you can have the same thoughts and be thinking about the same thing at the same time, but that's kind of not what it's about. It's more the fact that you think in the same manner. So this is all, what's really, really the crux of the matter is the worry, because the worry is fear-based. So it doesn't matter what you're worrying about, it's the fact that you worry. So your route to higher consciousness, as you move through your journey and you're guided to clear all the fear and move through the heart and move into it's called, an awakening, a clarity and understanding, that there is no reason to fear anything, because the human experience is only a limited experience, and you're not a limited being. Your expansiveness, and you exist forever, so there's no reason to fear anything of the human experience, right? So that elimination of the worry in the individual, that takes an individual into a higher consciousness, how it works in the twin flames is just that they're connected through the mind. So as you are not worrying yourself, the other one will not be worrying. So it's a clearing of the worry. That is the last point on this journey before what comes next, physical. Before physical reunion will take place. The journey into higher consciousness has to be completed before the physical reunion takes place, because you're not going to have a reunion based on worry. You're going to have a union based on higher consciousness, because the union itself, the energetic union, is simply higher consciousness, which is why I've started just then, because when the consciousness comes in for the twin flame experience, that version of consciousness, that evolution of consciousness, is higher consciousness. You get it? It's higher consciousness coming into the human experience to evolve the human experience. If it was lower consciousness, it would be coming into just one human, but it's a form of higher consciousness. So you choose, that's where I was, you choose to incarnate for this journey of higher consciousness. So every step you go through is exactly how it should be, exactly the way it's meant to be. Things, when they travel backwards, which you'll sometimes feel them travelling backwards, like you're taking steps backwards, you think you lost the plot or it's all going wrong. No, because you're just travelling back down to pick the other one up, to come back up again, because you're doing it together, you're not doing it individually. If you're doing it individually, you'd be simply moving into higher consciousness. Bam, you're awakened. Next minute, you're Matt Kahn. You're sitting there, you're telling everybody else how to awaken, right? But you are not here to do that. You're here to actually evolve human consciousness by having oneness in two individual people. And that is a lot of back and forth. Do you get it? So, oh God. Right. I mean, I even lose myself when I'm talking about this sometimes, right? I have to find where I've gone, and come back in again. So, the last part, which you will, like I say, it is a spiral. You spiral on this journey. It's not a straight line. So just because you arrive in the last part of the work, which is working in the mind, and the clarity and the understanding that takes you beyond fear and worry, and not just you, but the other one, it's not that you're just going to come into the mind and do that work and finish. You're going to come into the mind and do that work, and then you might have to drop back down again. Now, to go back to where I left off in April and my personal journey, this travelling into the mind and understanding about the worry had gone on for quite a long time, because they told me all about the law of attraction again, which of course I'd forgotten after years of seeing it before, in The Secret. They brought me back to that, so I had to work on the worry through that. But then this other video that I'm going to put out, which is a healing experience, took me right back down into my lower chakra, into karma, and to do with my family, my mother in particular, and also the human collective, and the fear and the dark energy that is operating within the human collective to keep us all from higher consciousness, to stop us evolving, which is narcissistic energy. Right, so should I talk a bit more about the mind? I think I've explained that. So basically the last thing is, on this journey between the two, is the clearing of worry, not fear, because fear is the lower chakra, is a lower down in the scale of evolution. It's down in the solar plexus and around the emotions, and as you move up through into the mind, you kind of clear that instinctual fear, if you can understand what I mean, like the fear that just is like that, like reaction to like something, and then you move into a more logical understanding of having no need to fear, which is more of a like self-talk thing, and saying to the self, well, I'm just not going to be scared of anything. Just logically, I'm not going to be. Rationally, I'm not going to be. And you come completely into the mind with that kind of way of being. And as you do that, so do they. So all that fear instinct is cleared. And however you do that with you, I brought myself a lot of things that were fearful to overcome. The narcissists in the human form, slugs from the garden into my house. That's been a big one. I'll tell you about that as well in a minute, because that's hilarious. Until I clear all instinctive fear and I don't have a fear reaction. The food thing as well, there was a lot of it in there, because there was a lot about acidosis, which is where you basically, your physical body starts to react to the fear. In terms of acidosis is when you get really stressed and really worried or really scared or anxious, and you start to deplete all your minerals. The body, what do you call it? The state of the body, the levels in the body start to change. The levels of minerals and toxins start to change. It's like a spontaneous thing that happens when you go into fear, and it depletes your body. So I had something coming around that, and I'll put that out in the other video, because that's all about him as well. What else? There's something about him healing me, but again, I'll put that in the other video, because that's more that. Oh, this was interesting. So the last two things that I've had come in, and this is in November and December. 3 things actually. November, I had a friend years ago. We were friends for a really long time. We were best friends. We lived in New York together and we had such fun. We had also had a lot of trauma, drama, and because we were operating from lower consciousness, but we had such fun. And it was all drink and drugs based and fashion party based and like running around New York and meeting boys and all that kind of stuff. And then it suddenly ended. The friendship suddenly ended, and it ended in the moment, pretty much the moment I returned to London and began my like journey into this work and stuff, the yoga teaching. It all ended then because it had to, because it couldn't carry on. But it wasn't a conscious, willful ending. It was just bam, it ended, not in a good way either. And we hadn't spoken since. And in November, I was doing that lockdown like on the internet, having a browse, and I thought I'll just have a look and see if he's around. And when I put his name in, it came up with a website, and literally just gone self-employed, and it had all his contact details and everything. And I was just like, oh my God, of course, it's like timing, divine timing. So there was this thing that we used to say to each other, and it was like a little song that we used to sing, and only me and him would know it. And I can still remember it, even though this is going back to like 1995, something like that. I can still remember it word for word. So I just sent him an email and I wrote that song down, and I said, I just want you to know that even though we're not friends anymore, I will never will there be such fun had ever again in my life, no doubt. And you may be gone, but you're not forgotten. So I just wanted to send that to him, right? Because I was overwhelmed with all this like emotion. I'm getting overwhelmed now thinking about it. And so I did that, and I didn't think it'd have any effect on me when I sent it. But then I got one back from him as well, which was just the same kind of thing. And there was no, like, between either of us, there was no need to reconnect anything beyond that, So it was just like, really, I had to let go of him all again, basically. Because it's like when you bring someone back in and you're just able to touch that again, and then you've got to let go, right? So that was huge. I went through this huge letting go of that person again, probably because I'd never let go of them in the first place. Back then in 2007, I had to go through it, really go through it. I guess there'd always been something in the back of my mind, like, oh, maybe we'll meet up again, maybe we'll talk, maybe I'll tell him all this, and of course that's never going to happen. So I had to really let go. Involved a lot of emotion coming out. Really weirdly, I drank a lot of wine that day when that emotion came out, and the next day I had literally hardly any recollection of what had happened. I knew I'd done it. There'd been loads of crying and like wailing, like people do at wakes, keening. And then it was just gone, and I felt fine. And so that came in. That was interesting, right? And letting go. It's like you have to let go, and you have to let go, and you have to let go on this journey, and then you have to even bring things in that you thought you'd let go of, and let go of them all over again until the job of letting go is thoroughly done. So that was just interesting. The other thing was I Googled myself. I did a bit of lockdown Googling on myself, and I found this is absurd, right? First of all, let me tell you, at the beginning of 2019, I heard a voice say, you can change your phone number if you want. And when I heard that, I skipped a beat and I laughed, right? And my vibration went right up, like, hee, like giggles, right? And because of course me and him haven't seen my twin haven't seen each other for years. So it's like, I know I gave him my number. I've got the same number basically. That he used to call me on years ago, but that's just weird, right? So when my vibration went up like that, I thought, well, that's really odd, because I've only got, when I used to teach yoga, I used to use a different email address. Like, I've got a personal email address, my Hazel email address, and I had a yoga email address. So, and my yoga work was never through my personal email address. And I went on to Google myself, and what came up was this website that is all about yoga teachers and stuff, and offers anybody that in the world that wants it that person's personal email address. And I was like, hang on a minute, there's my, right on the internet where anybody can see it and find it, is my personal email address and everything about me. I think it even had a small picture of me. Yes, it did. So that they'd taken off somewhere like LinkedIn. They must have gone into LinkedIn and got it from there. I don't know if they're allowed to do that. But anyway, there you go. So I was out there anyway with my personal email address. So just saying that. So that's obviously corresponding to them saying you can change your phone number if you want, because he doesn't need my phone number, and that won't be how it's going to happen. So that was that, right? That was also November, and then December. So first thing, 1st December, I woke up in the morning and I heard a voice say, it's time to RSVP. And that's the last I've heard. And now we're in January. It's January the 1st, 2nd today, I think. And I'm not going to even say anything about anything in terms of that. I'm just going to leave it at that. That's what I've heard. It's time to RSVP. And I've had this feeling like just wanted to really get on with my life and wanting to really like do stuff and start to do readings for people again and start to put videos out again and start to talk about this stuff again and start to explain it again and start to try and help people again. And also just this feeling of like get up and go, right? That's come in last week. So that takes you back up to where I left off and up to now, and what I've learned so far, apart from the great big thing that I'm putting out next, which is about the food. And like I say, I hope somebody's out there listening to me. I don't know. I just have to start from the beginning again, building it all up. If not, it doesn't really matter. I'm not going to worry about it. What is meant to be. I put my email address down below so you can contact me if you want a reading, and I'll just send you an email back with all the details so you can have a think about whether you want to go ahead when you get that email. You don't have to sign up for anything before that. Yeah, that's it. All right, lots of love, take care, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.